there is an opportunity to help the great companies of the world, the great businesses of the world, build better, and it sounds funny to say, but even more human experiences using AI across all parts of the customer journey. The Phoenix agent actually just scheduled an appointment in Mandarin, which is pretty cool. My guess is most of you don't staff Mandarin contact center agents around the clock. Have folks doing much higher value things, make outbound sales calls, be on higher value upsell or cross-sell calls. So you imagine, an AI, in your case, schedules the appointment and maybe handles some basic questions, but someone who would have been doing the scheduling is instead making an outbound call. Is like, hey, I noticed you're joining us. We actually have wine coolers. Do you need an extra parking space? That's revenue generating. That's great. That is so much more valuable than scheduling the 73rd appointment for that day. I think the impact of all of that over time is likely underhyped.
Welcome back to Multifamily Unpacked. This episode was recorded live at our forum, and I'm not exaggerating when I say it was one of the best received conversations there. Our CEO Tyler sat down for a conversation with Clay Bavor, the former head of Google Labs and co-founder of Sierra AI. Clay's not just shaping the future of AI, he's helping build it. From leading Google's most ambitious AI efforts to now pioneering agentic AI, the guy's resume reads like a tech history lesson. And in this session, he breaks down what this moment means for AI, why the hype is both real and overblown, and how AI can create more human customer experiences, not less. We're honored to partner with Clay and the Sierra team to bring this technology to multifamily through our AI solutions. Let's get into it.
All right. Well, hopefully you guys are as excited about AI as we are and all the new cool things that'll be coming. So we were incredibly grateful for this opportunity to speak with Clay, who I've got to know this morning even better. So Clay, the first question that I've wondered all along with Sierra, so between your background leading Google Labs, the 18 years you spent there, your co-founder, Bret Taylor, on the board chairman of OpenAI, former CEO of Salesforce, why now? And why in particular? Just a note to brag a little bit more on Clay if we haven't enough. Sierra was recently named one of the 50 most innovative AI companies in the world by Forbes magazine. They were on the Forbes 50 list. And what I noticed on that list is, there's a description of what the companies do, and only one that was customer service software was Sierra, right? So why now and why Sierra?
Well, first of all, Tyler, thank you so much for having me and letting me be part of this event. It's been terrific to meet many of you. The question, why now, first of all, starts with what's happening in technology and AI at this moment. And I've been obsessed with computers all of my life. And over the past 5 years, I feel like I've been seeing science fiction books, come alive in the real world. When I was at Google several years ago, I remember we were kind of poking at one of the early large language models, like the AI model that powers ChatGPT. And one of the surest signs of intelligence is the ability to think and reason in metaphor. And we asked this AI model, hey, please describe the 2008 financial crisis using movie references. And without skipping a beat, it said the 2008 financial crisis was a lot like the movie Inception, except instead of dreams within dreams, it was debt within debt. And we're like, whoa, oh, well, okay, geez, like that's really smart, and I wouldn't have thought to put it that way. So what computers, what software, all of a sudden has become able to do, have conversations, think, reason, decide, to Bret, my co-founder, and me, seemed nothing short of extraordinary, and in particular, extraordinary material with which to build a new product and business. So why customer service in particular? We think about it much more broadly than that, but to be concrete about it, what we're trying to resolve is this age-old tension between wanting to provide great customer service and more broadly a great customer experience and the cost of doing that. And many companies, you'll hide away your 800 number. Like, please do anything but call us, right? There are, in fact, websites devoted to helping consumers find 800 numbers to get a hold of a company. And by the way, if you do, you're being told to get off the phone as quickly as you can. And there was, walking into work the other day, I remember I was walking behind a gentleman, and he was clearly on a phone call on his AirPods and holding his phone. And he starts shaking, and I'm like, what's going on? And I hear, representative. And I was like, bro, I'm trying to help with that. So to come back to your question, Tyler, we think that there is an opportunity to help the great companies of the world, the great businesses of the world, build better, and it sounds funny to say, but even more human experiences using AI across all parts of the customer journey. Yes, service and support, but also, right, in this context, if I'm a potential renter and there are 3 or 4 different floor plans and I have a family, like, well, which one would work best for me given these circumstances? And I have a pet, well, it's actually a pet iguana, like, would that work? Does that, and so getting advice and recommendations and help just as you would from a concierge, that's the kind of experience we want to be able to deliver to our customers. And the technology behind it is kind of the seed crystal of why now.
Yeah, I love that. And by the way, one of the things I'm super impressed about Clay is his genuine interest in this industry. And we sat down for breakfast this morning and he had done all his research. It seems like you've done research on the challenges we all deal with, because the pet iguana thing is very real. Like that.
Are iguanas a thing? Are they? I'm imagining the crazy questions you must all get.
So one thing I also want to highlight, I love that you just said that we've been talking about all morning, is when used properly, AI actually makes the service more human. One thing, and I also mentioned in my keynote, the Funnel thinks a lot about design, both in just our logos. The reason, I'm going to put you on the spot because I've heard this on one of your podcasts and studying you. The reason why you picked Sierra as a name and even the aesthetic of your office, could you maybe speak to that a little bit?
Oh,
kind of
I love this question. No, thanks for asking. So we wanted the name of our company to reflect the natural world, have humanistic overtones, and in contrast, there's a company that does kind of voice agents for some part of customer experience called Replicant. Like, yeah, I wasn't that. Aren't those things that killed people in Blade Runner? Like that, that doesn't sound great. And so both Brett and I grew up in California. We grew up in the Sierra Mountains. It evokes images of nature, and we wanted to use technology to create these better, more human experiences. And you may think AI and automation, and well, gosh, like what does that mean? The way we think about it is, in the context of a retailer, checking someone's order status and their FedEx delivery number for the 73rd time that day is not additive. In your world, spending 5 or 7 minutes wrangling whatever scheduling system you're using to schedule an appointment is not additive. Making a human connection, a person making a connection with another person, or taking time to lead a guided tour and share their own anecdotes and love of the property and maybe make connections with other families or renters there, that's useful. And so the way we think about AI is it's a tool, it's another tool that you have in order to optimize how you're delivering an amazing experience to your renters by soaking up a lot of the kind of rote routine stuff, so that the amazing people who are part of your companies can do much higher value, more rewarding, more interesting, high-touch things. And we think that balance can and should shift, and we're excited to be part of it.
Amazing. Yeah, and so obviously you're a couple years into this journey with Sierra now. I'm curious, as you look back over the last 18, 24 months, and would love to share some of the anecdotes of success that you've had with your partners. What are the things that have surprised you in being a customer service agent, but in multiple verticals, right? In things like Sirius and Weight Watchers and Chubby Shorts. Like, what are some of those lessons about the domain expertise that you need versus where you can partner with the business to take advantage of what they know about their customer?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I've loved about building Sierra is having the privilege to partner with some of the great companies in the world and see inside the company and the business. And boy, every business, it turns out, certainly across industries, is very different. And Tyler, you were nice to reflect that, like, I knew something about this industry. I think I know 1% of 1% of 1%. Thanks to Cameron's video on centralization. It was a great video. I know what that means. But it's been rewarding and fun and also hard to, in the context of Weight Watchers or SiriusXM, how do we help them better manage subscription churn? And when a subscriber calls in and is thinking, hey, this isn't working for me, I'm not getting the value out of it, how do we make a connection? How do we do some kind of value discovery? What are you into? Oh, you listen to college sports. earning the right to say, well, actually, we've got this great package for you that just has sports. It's lower cost. Would this work for you? There are nuances there. With Chubbies, you mentioned, Chubbies, they make very short shorts. I am not cool enough to, or have nice enough legs to own a pair. They, as you might imagine, have this pretty irreverent, funny brand. And they wanted to work with us to imbue their AI with a lot of persona and vibe. And so they created this whole persona of a imaginary guy named Duncan Smothers. I'm not quite sure how they came up with the name. And Duncan cracks jokes. He's got this irreverent sense of humor and so on. So there they were focused, of course, on where's my order, returns, exchanges, and so on, but also making sure that the brand and spirit comes through. One of the reasons I am so grateful for our partnership, Tyler, is this is an industry that is very complex, very deep, as you all know, and that we think Sierra and AI could make a huge difference in, but we also have the humility to know that we don't know enough to do it well. And so by partnering with Funnel and powering Phoenix, right, it's an opportunity for us to reach a whole additional industry that we otherwise wouldn't be able to, and bring all the goodness of what we built there. And it's kind of 1 + 1 equals, I don't know if it's 3 or 4 or 5, but it's a number a lot bigger than 2. And I really admire, I think, Tyler, you and the team have been very clear-eyed about, we know how to do this set of things best, the incredible SaaS and workflow applications you've built, and then to partner with someone in this area of conversational AI, so you can bring the best of all these worlds in one package, and we're grateful to be a part of it.
Oh, thank you so much, man. We're humbled. It definitely was a moment for us in time where, again, I showed some of those slides from back in 2019. The idea that we'd have somebody of your caliber, Clay, and an organization like Sierra willing to partner with us is very humbling, just as humbling as having all of you as our partners. So we highlighted some of the success stories. One thing I will highlight, and I really appreciate you saying this, I talked earlier about the balancing act of AI and humans. We want to underscore there are huge, just like centralization, right? One of our partners, Camden, has proudly displayed on their earnings reports that centralization saved them $4 million a year, right? And we are here for the cost savings. And I think this industry, you're correct, is incredibly nuanced and complicated and regulated, but it has historically struggled with staffing, right? With keeping property staffed, and then when you do err on the side of, okay, well, now we're going to centralize, we're going to try contact centers, then you walk right into the challenge of staffing contact centers, right? And there's a huge overhead, but part of that overhead is just keeping, refilling the seats that keep opening up. So I'm curious, in that context of kind of centralized contact centers in particular, I know you guys have a lot of experience here with some of your partners. What are some of the wins, perhaps, of, hey, we've been able to, reduce kind of the staffing necessary in those? And also on the flip side, what are some of the maybe technical challenges as folks here are thinking about, really embracing AI at a large scale? What are some of the things that, if you look ahead and you say, hey, if this thing happens or we don't have access to this data, it's going to go wrong? So maybe some wins and some challenges there.
On the wins front, first of all, typically our agents in their steady state, after some amount of coaching and teaching, if you will, are able to resolve somewhere between 50 and 90% of all incoming questions. So it's hard to know exactly where that will kind of converge in the kind of prospect support case and so on, but I'm optimistic about it. At about the 70% level, we've seen companies be able to bring down contact center hours or headcount by about 50%. Now, what's interesting is many companies will bank those savings. Other companies will actually keep all of those people in seat, but have folks doing much higher value things, make outbound sales calls, be on higher value upsell or cross-sell calls. So you imagine, an AI, in your case, schedules the appointment and maybe handles some basic questions, but someone who would have been doing the scheduling is instead making an outbound call. Is like, hey, I noticed you're joining us. We actually have wine coolers. Do you need an extra parking space? Other things that you could attach to the leads. Like, that's revenue generating. That's great. That is so much more valuable than scheduling the 73rd appointment for that day. So those are big picture, the types of results and cost savings we see. There are other more subtle things. So seasonality is huge, as you can imagine, for retailers. One of our retailers...
Also big in this industry. We call it leasing season.
Yeah, leasing season. I bet there's an industry that's more seasonal than yours, which is one of our customers is Minted. I don't know if any of you make holiday cards with Minted. We do every year. Their seasonality, it's like, and I don't know what it is, but there's a spike when everyone realizes, oh my God, it's Thanksgiving. That means I need to get my holiday cards out. For businesses like Minted and retailers where Black Friday, Cyber Monday means that kind of spike, retailers typically have to double staffing in Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And that staffing for those 2 weeks or so can be as much as a third of their total annual cost of service, because you're having to hire up ahead, you're having to pay overage, and so on. And so I'm super proud. Our retailers this year, one of them, whereas in past years had to double staffing, this past Black Friday, Cyber Monday added 2 people company-wide. And so we were really, really excited about that. Minted, we blunted that out. And then finally, the Phoenix agent actually just scheduled an appointment in Mandarin, which is pretty cool. My guess is most of you don't staff Mandarin contact center agents around the clock. And so whether it's Mandarin, Chinese, French, our agents can speak 20 different languages. And I think it's really neat to be able to meet a potential renter where they are, speak with them in their native language. So imagine the delight of someone moving from out of country, potentially someone Spanish speaking, being able to speak in their native language, even in their native dialect, and have that just be utterly seamless. That's what we mean when we say more human experiences.
That's incredible. Yeah, there's a lot of our partners, and again, just to emphasize our commitment to AI, what we're talking about, this cutting edge technology is available to every Funnel VLA customer, right? Like we're gonna eat that cost, we're gonna partner. One of the things on the cost side that I want to highlight that we really love that Sierra is challenging, I mentioned this before, is outcome-based pricing. So just to emphasize the experience of the individuals running this organization. So Clay, this is unfortunately, Clay, to our chagrin, a Microsoft industry by and large. We wish more of you use Gmail, but Funnel's a Gmail shop. Those of you who use Gmail and the Google Office suite, that's a product that Clay helped build and manage years ago. It's a SaaS product, right? You subscribe to that. Your co-founder, Brett Taylor, was the co-CEO of Salesforce, right? Kind of the original SaaS OG of CRM. Talk to us about that adoption in your experience and in your business of moving towards outcome-based pricing, because everything you just described is, the value only is going to be paid when there's a tangible outcome associated with that. So just curious how that shift has been for you and Brett as you've shifted from kind of the old school SaaS world to this outcome-based pricing model. Any lessons you've learned there?
The evolution of how software has been purchased is pretty interesting. It was like 25 years ago, you'd go to like Fry's Electronics and buy a box with CDs in it and install it on your computer, and you paid $600 for Photoshop regardless of how much you used it or didn't. Okay. Then there was SaaS, and it's like you're basically renting a piece of software. Companies like Snowflake introduced consumption-based pricing, where and AWS as well. You pay depending on how much you use it. Our view is you should think of AI and AI agents as software you are hiring to do a job and do a job well, to get something done for you. And most tools today help a person be slightly better at getting their job done. AI and agents in particular that can take action, right? That can, whether it's sending a satellite signal from space, drop shipping you a new set of shoes, sending a new battery or ADT alarm sticker in the mail, scheduling an appointment to come and view a property. It's software that actually can fully complete tasks. And what we really liked in our approach to pricing was deeply aligning our incentives with our customers, where, hey, you're in essence hiring a Sierra agent to get a job done and a job done well, and only when it does that should you pay, right? If the agent says, gosh, I don't know about that, let me hand you off to someone, well, you haven't realized any value, and you shouldn't pay for not having realized any value. And so that's what we mean by outcome-based pricing. And again, I think that the fundamental insight behind it is this incentives alignment, where you save a bunch of costs. What would have cost $10 or $20 in a contact center or keeping someone staffed to man a phone, we resolve for a fraction of that. You see huge savings, and we win when you win.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And just to iterate again, the Sierra partnership for you all is embedded in the VLA. We will be experimenting with outcome-based pricing. I talked about renewals. There's things we want to try, but we also understand your business model. Talked about last year, my dad's an asset manager, right? He likes that fixed cost model. And so we're very excited about this, but we want your feedback as we introduce these new workflows. Another thing that we would love to experiment that Sierra is doing, another example of why this partnership for us made so much sense, is authentication, is the idea idea of actually validating that the consumer is who they say they are. That is not something, so historically in multifamily, if I'm making a rent payment or I'm submitting a work order, I do that when I'm logged in. Because we've all been in a rush to introduce AI, my candid opinion is we're probably doing some things that we might want to authenticate, like reminding people to pay their rent and to sign renewal offers. So maybe speak to, and I think maybe Weight Watchers is an example I've heard where the agent is deployed, but the agent is deployed in a way in which you validate the person is who you think you're communicating with.
Yeah, we just as the best salespeople or support people are able to remember what you ordered and pull up information and have context on you. We think great AI agents do that as well. And so in the Weight Watchers case, in fact, with the majority of our customers, we authenticate the user either by having the customer we work with pass in kind of an authentication token. This is Bob Smith from such and such. Or we can do kind of fuzzy matching, which is like, oh, what is your name, what zip code? Would you mind sharing the last 4 digits of the credit card that you made the deposit with, other things like that? Okay, I've pulled up everything, and now I can deeply personalize the session and answer questions that are specific to you. When is your next payment due? Hey, if I'm late by this much, what's the penalty? Hey, does my property come with 1 or 2 parking spaces and those types of things? So we think there's huge power in that, and I'm very excited in the kind of context of supporting renters, just what you can do by, we think about it as like creating this concierge-like experience, and I think authentication and knowing the details of the renter and their experience and the products that they purchase are a really important ingredient.
That's music to our ears. I mean, the idea of having a single renter guest card across multiple communities, but then actually using that to personalize the journey, something we hear from our friends at Greystar all the time, is a huge opportunity that we don't do well today. And we know, every year Salesforce puts out the state of the connected consumer, and the number one thing consumers want is to be known. Right? I do not want to read, Nikki told her story about explaining who she was again, right? And trust in AI is so critical. And you talk about the representative, right? Once you get that validation of, oh, hey, Tyler, I see you have a flight coming up.
That's right.
Like my blood pressure goes down immediately. Okay, good. I don't have to explain that to you. I just want to change my flight.
Yeah, I think some circle of hell is, spelling your last name for the 4th time.
12
after
letters.
Having been, mine, I was impressed you pronounced mine correctly. Difficult last name knows difficult last name, so I appreciate it. But no, it's the number one predictor of a high customer satisfaction interaction in the service setting is low effort. And people talk a lot about delight and surprise, like, yeah, but in Maslow's hierarchy of, experiential needs, it's like, could you please just solve my problem quickly and fully and without me having to, again, spell my last name for the 5th time on this call? So I think that authentication and knowing who the renter is short-circuits so much of that. You feel known, you feel seen, and that level of effort just drops.
Fantastic. All right, well, we're going to wrap up with the speed round with Clay. This has been phenomenal. So the first one that we talked about earlier that I'm excited to hear, what in the world of AI is overhyped and what may be underhyped?
Gosh, there's this saying that with new technologies, people generally overestimate its impact in the short run and underestimate its impact in the long run. And I think AI is no different. And so what's overhyped in AI? I think AI is overhyped in AI. One of my favorite things is using the Internet Archive's Wayback Machine and looking at businesses' websites, and when they slapped AI on their homepage, it's like whatever we were doing, it's now with AI. And more recently, it's now with AI agents, right? Agents are all now anyone wants to talk about. I think to be more concrete about this is I think it is naive to say, oh, AI will solve all known problems. Well, we have this application built over 10 years. Well, couldn't AI do that? It was like, over some time period, maybe. But systems and tools like Salesforce, like Funnel, that manage all of the complexities of renter life cycle management, overseeing multiple properties, centralization, leaning on kind of franchises, aggregating information, all of it. That is not something that you just point some AI at that. There's so much know-how about the industry, about best practices imbued in those types of tools that I think those types of tools plus AI are going to continue to be the name of the game for a long time into the future. And so what's overhyped? I think it's AI. What's underhyped? I think it's also AI. And what do I mean by that? What you should imagine is that over the last year in each one of your offices, all of a sudden, a PhD in every field of human knowledge has just shown up and is just waiting in the corner, ready to do research for you. If you've used OpenAI or Google's deep research, these are guys that can go out and do what would have been a week-long research project for a PhD-educated person and come back with a briefing on whatever it is. So you now have 10 or 12 PhDs sitting in your office. For any technical folks here, you have a stable of software engineers in the form of AI-assisted coding agents, right, like Cursor and Codium and others, just waiting to write whatever application you would like. It is hard to predict just where that goes, but this idea that suddenly every one of us has at our disposal tens, even hundreds of kind of thinking machines that can go out and research and code and write, brainstorm with us is extraordinary. And I think it's just as I think at the advent of the internet, no one could have predicted YouTube or TikTok or Uber or DoorDash. We're at the very beginning of this next phase. And I think it is so exciting and a great gift, A, to be alive at all, but B, to be alive at this point in time as these technologies come to fruition. And I think with such great and real and direct opportunities to apply it in everything that you do and in elevating the renter experience and elevating the customer experience and providing this kind of concierge-like experience from soup to nuts. And again, I think delivering this more human experience by soaking up the rote stuff and enabling us all to do what we do best. So I'm super excited about that, and I think the impact of all of that over time is likely underhyped.
Yeah. Well, actually, you know what? We're going to end on that. That was the best possible answer I could have asked for. So thank you so much, Clay, for being here. We're going to welcome up in a minute the centralization panel, but just everybody here is a funnel customer using our virtual leasing assistant. We are so excited. You know, I couldn't be more humbled but excited to have a partner like Sierra for this. So please test the product, give us your feedback because the future is very bright. So Clay, thank you.
Thank you, Tyler, and thank you, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in. If this episode got you thinking, here's the next step. Join us at the Forum, the best conference in multifamily, March 23rd to 26th at the JW Marriott Camelback Inn in Scottsdale. I can assure you Forum is not the average conference. It's built for multifamily executives who are rethinking how teams, technology, and operations come together to deliver standout renter and team experiences. If that sounds like you, this is where you need to be. Registration's open now at the link in the show notes. Early bird pricing runs through November 2nd, and a heads up, Forum sells out every year. Don't wait. Grab your seat at the best rate today. We'll see you in Scottsdale.